Our 6-day trip to Death Valley started out on a beautiful day in mid-November. We were all packed up and ready to go, but for me, things didn't start out that way. In the late afternoon of the previous day, I went out to start packing up the 4Runner, and to my surprise, I saw that the right front tire was flat. Not a great way to start a trip. At first, I thought there was a nail in the tire as I saw and felt a cool, shiny, rust-colored object in the tread. Turned out that was just a stone. The problem was simply a loose valve. Putting my handy valve tool to use, I had the valve secured, then aired up the tire and was good to go. But that wouldn't be the end of tire problems on this trip. The first waypoint on our adventure was a quick stop at Trona Pinnacles, an otherworldly looking place made of tufa formations just south of the town of Trona, California. Tufa formations can only be made underwater. During the last several ice ages, going back as far as 200,000 years, this entire area was underwater in a vast deep lake called Cyril's Lake. Cyril's Lake accumulated a concentrated carbonated brine. Then, fissures in the lake bed caused by geothermal heating created upsurges from the underground hot springs. These hot springs were very rich with calcium, and when combined with the carbonated brine, formed calcium carbonate. Now, mix the calcium carbonate deposits with algae colonies, and small hollow tubes begin to form and grow to eventually become the most spectacular tufa formations in North America. The depth of the lake varied from ice age to ice age, and the height of the tufa formations are a good indicator of how deep the lake was during the time of their formation. Already behind schedule, we skipped lunch and continued on to Death Valley. Well, we made it to just outside of Trona and pulled off on a dirt road, and we've aired down. The idea being we're running a little behind time, so we thought we could take a shortcut over the local mountains here, and we aired down. And right after we started airing down, Bud took a look at his left front tire, and he's missing some rubber on the sidewall, and that's not good. So we're going to have to effect repairs here on the road and take our lumps on the time schedule and see what happens. Ahead of us were the Slate Mountains, which needed to be crossed in order to reach the Panamint Valley. We replaced the tire on Bud's LandCruiser with the spare, and after our second tire repair of the trip, we're ready to go again. Our route over the Slate Range took us up Goff Canyon, over Manly Pass, then down into Fish Canyon to the Panamint Valley. Fish Canyon was named for Father Fish, who died here trying to escape the heat of Death Valley in 1850.
So yesterday didn't go quite as we expected, but we were kind of behind schedule all day, but kind of expected that was going to happen. It was an aggressive schedule. So we got to Trona Pinnacles. We didn't even have time to eat lunch there, but we did get some. It was a beautiful place, and I got some great drone footage there. Hopefully that came out well. And then we stopped off in Trona to just top off on gas. And right outside of Trona, instead of taking the Trona Windrose Road up to a dirt road that then crosses over to the town of Ballarat, it's an old ghost town, and then drive south from there on a road called Wingate, W-I-N-G-A-T-E. We instead took a road over the Slate Range that we saw on the map. And it was a beautiful off-road drive. There was one spot where I took a pretty steep downhill pitch, and Bud found a bypass for it, but it made it exciting. And the only downside on that part of the trip was it was once we came through and over the Slate Range, there was a large alluvial fan we had to drive down for a couple of miles, and it was all basically basalt, lava rock, very rocky and slow going, sharp rocks, had to be careful you're not doing damage to the tires. And it was just kind of slow and going, and But we got through it, and instead of heading up the canyon to Goler Pass, we decided just to camp out here on the floor of the really the end of the Panamint Valley here, and we're really sort of right at the end of the former Panamint Lake, dry lake. Goes back to the Pleistocene era, and because it was getting dark when we got here, and we really didn't want to drive up the canyon in the dark, not because we couldn't, but we just wouldn't be able to see things. So we decided to pull up and just hold camp here. It was a nice wide open spot. The ground was flat, and what the heck. So that's what we did last night. Now it's time to go back and make some breakfast and get ready for today's adventures. So today we need to get over the Panamint Range and drop right down into Badwater, the lowest point in the Western Hemisphere. Also the hottest point on Earth during the summer, or hottest recorded point on Earth. And then we'll drive north a ways. We'll go into Furnace Creek, do a few things in Furnace Creek. We might drive through the Artist Drive today, and then we need to start heading up Echo Canyon, and the plan is to get through Echo Canyon to the far end and make camp there tonight. So we'll see what happens. It's another day. And keep coming. Now cut that way. You're gonna come off this one. There you go. That's fine. Nice and easy. Drop that rear end carefully. There you go. All right, we're in Goler Pass, and just taking a little break here. We'll see what happens, but should be fun. We had a few rocks coming up, nothing too bad. From what we understand, the remainder of the trip is on Goler Pass at least. Gets a little rockier before we get to Warm Springs. So we'll see. And then from there, we drop down into Badwater. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll catch you on down the line. Well, we just pulled into Warm Spring. Bit later than we thought. It's about 1:25, so we probably hit the road around 9:30 this morning. It took a while to get over here. So this is where originally we wanted to spend the first night. So we would have had to get a very early start out of San Diego to make it over here and still do Goler Pass. But here we are, and we'll give you a little look around and see what we got. So from what I understand, this used to be a mining camp, and it's a wonderful spot with the spring. And I could see how the miners would find this a comfortable place to come back. I'll show you here in a minute. There's actually a swimming pool here that's fed by Warm Spring, or it was fed by Warm Spring, no longer is, and the pool's dry, but you'll get the idea. Let's go take a look inside. First thing I noticed, other than the acoustics, is there are a lot of mud dauber nests in here.
So this place is lousy with wasps at the right time of year. We have an old walk-in refrigerator. And I'm sorry, but when I see that walk-in refrigerator, the first thing I thought of was The Shining. We'll go and take a quick look. Hard to say what all these spaces were used for, but there's ducting up there too. So they really had this place set up. Gas heat down here. Here's the swimming pool. Tell the burrows go into it. Notice Bud's right leg here. We'll come back to that one a little bit later in the trip. The water out of the spring doesn't feel like a hot spring or anything, but I wouldn't call it cold spring water either. Early in the morning, let's have a look in here. Or just plan on making 2 days out of it. Couple of chairs for very lightweight people. Sort of like a gathering area. Has an oven over there, so I guess people cooked over here too, had a hearth. Beautiful day, absolutely beautiful day. All right, we better think about moving on here. I'll have to find Bud, see where he's walking around. We worked our way down Warm Springs Canyon, and eventually it opened up to just a spectacular panoramic view of Death Valley itself. Well, we've made it to the bottom. We're about minus 120 feet right now, and we've just made it to the highway. We are airing up to head up to Furnace Creek, which is our next stop. There's the road we came down from Warm Springs. So the Warm Springs Road comes into the West End Road, which goes around the west side of Badwater. And so we came a couple of miles on the West End Road, but yep, we came down out of the mountains right over there. And we're gonna head off in this direction. We drove to Furnace Creek, and after stopping there and shopping for the folks back home, we realized there wasn't enough time to drive through Echo Canyon and reach our planned campsite for the night. So instead we improvised and we drove out the road over Daylight Pass into Nevada. There we went a couple of miles out on a dirt road in the Armagosa Valley and found a nice spot for the night's camp. However, in the morning, plans are going to change as we find that we need to go on the hunt for medical attention. Stick around and see what happens on the next episode of our trip in Death Valley, and we'll catch you next time on Adventure Beyond 60.